Houston, Texas. It was the morning of October 12th, in the year 2000. A 48-year-old woman named Mary Lou Morris said goodbye to her husband Jay, and left for work. Mary Morris, who worked as a bank loan officer, never made it to work that day. Her husband called several times throughout the day, but never got an answer. This was the last time anyone saw Mary alive. About 3 miles away from Mary's home, the car was found smoldering and up in smoke. Whoever had been inside the vehicle at the time had been burned beyond recognition. Someone called the police and the CSI team was dispatched to investigate. It was determined the car belonged to Mary Lou Morris. After an investigation of the body, they announced that it was indeed Mary Lou. The body was burned beyond recognition, and therefore impossible to tell the cause of death. The police never deemed this a murder, and could not find a motive at the time. Friends and family had no clues as to who could have done such a thing. Mary had no known enemies, but did have many friends and a stable career. 3 days passed with no more clues being found. No more details have been announced by the police. Then, just within 72 hours of Mary Lou Morris's body being discovered by police, yet another Mary Morris was found dead in almost the same area. She too was killed in her car in almost the same way as the other Morris. This was Mary McInnes Morris, 39 years of age, similar physical description to the other Morris. And, once again, was considered to be a serious professional with many loving friends and family. She was a nurse practitioner, and everyone saw her as being happy and dedicated. Everyone seemed to like Mary McInnes Morris. She loved her job, and got along with all of her co-workers, except for one employee, a new male nurse. Mary's friend from work named Lori Jamel was quoted saying, "She told me that she was afraid of this person that she worked with. And I said, 'Do you really think he could hurt you?' And she said, 'Yes, I do, and I think he could do worse.'" That was only the beginning. Lori Jamel also stated that Mary went to the office one day to pick up some papers and found things in disarray and out of place on her desk. Pictures turned to face the wrong direction. Also on her desk were written the words "death to her," which she assumed to be a direct threat to her. She then allegedly calls her husband, Mike Morris, in a state of panic. He was quoted as saying, "She made a phone call to me on her way home, and I could tell that she was shaking. She got home, and she asked me if I would provide her with a gun to carry with her for her own protection. She asked me to go over the handling and use of the gun. When we were finished, she asked me to place the gun in her car under the driver's seat." A couple of weekends later, Mary met up with her friend Lori at the clinic for a flu shot. Lori claimed that Mary seemed fine that day, and stuck around the clinic for a few hours. All was fine, until a few hours later, when Mary called Lori in a panic. Mary told her that she ran into someone at the clinic that gave her the creeps. Mary then told Lori, "I'm just gonna run across the bridge and turn off my computer and sign out of the building and go home." Only 12 minutes later, 911 dispatchers received a frantic call from Mary. This was the last time that anyone heard from Mary. The officers said that they would not release the call as the contents are too graphic. Mary was then found in her car with a gunshot wound to the head and beaten badly. There was blood on the passenger door that had been left open, and the keys were outside of the car on the ground. The police had two main suspects at this point: Mike Morris, the husband, and the male ex-co-worker from the clinic. Police investigators focused first on Mary's co-worker at the clinic. Allegedly, after several failed attempts to discredit Mary, he then quit his job. Along with the death threat and leaving on bad terms, he was the prime suspect at the time. Detectives claim to have evidence linking him to the crime, but none has been revealed, so he remains a suspect. However, the husband Mike has several inconsistencies in his alibi as well. Mike claimed that he was at the movie theater with his daughter at the time of the murder. But when interviewed by the police, he refused to take a polygraph test, and would not let his daughter be interviewed either. He hired an attorney, saying he was only following the advice of friends. He had an excuse for the polygraph, saying that at the time he was on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, and didn't feel like the polygraph would compensate for that. The police found out that Mike and Mary were having marital problems, and rumors of an affair between Mary and a family friend came up. Mike disagreed with that as well. The police were informed that Mary had a $700,000 life insurance policy in her name. This gives the police another possible motive. According to police, one of the more curious clues they got was from a phone call that her husband had made to Mary 2 hours after she called 911. Mike stated he thought it was a mistake on the phone company's behalf and couldn't explain the phone call. He thought the phone would ring and eventually say caller unavailable, but instead, it kept ringing, and he chose to let it continue. The phone company records show that the call lasted for about 4 minutes. This brings up another question. If the phone rang for 4 minutes straight without an answer, then why did the phone records show that a completed call went through? Who did Mike talk to on the phone during that time? Of course, Mike Morris denies any of these accusations. Why did both Marys die in such a short span between each other? Who killed both of these women? There has been plenty of speculation and rumors about a contract killer making a mistake on the first Mary Morris and having to correct the problem. The hit gone wrong theory is supported by a call allegedly made to a Houston newspaper. It's also noted that the first Mary Morris was missing her wedding ring. Maybe this was taken by the killer to show that the job had been finished. When looking into the idea of a contracted killer, Detective Robert Torrey stated, "Well, with the remoteness of the location where the victim was found, as well as the effort that was taken to destroy the evidence and the vehicle, that would be consistent with a contract killing. But with the background of the victim, that doesn't seem likely." Detective Wayne Coleman stated that the first Mary Morris was a mistake, a missed hit, a botched hit, something like that. There's not anything that we found that would support that. Detectives looked into the contracted killer idea more, but came up empty with no other evidence supporting this theory. The police would label this crime as a bizarre accident, but many think this to be impossible, including Jane Morris and Lori Gemma. I can't help but think they have to be related. I can't imagine that two women with the same name would be murdered within 3 days of each other, both found in their cars, and not have that be related, Lori said. Neither the husband, Mike, nor the ex-coworker has been ruled out as suspects in the case. Without any further information, this case remains unsolved to this day. That's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more content. Until next time.